Hello again, Michael Ware with the Iowa Firearms Coalition. We've got a guest today that you'll be interested in, Dianna Muller. Thank you for joining us. Let's see, I'm introducing you as a former cop, a professional shooter, and the founder of the DC Project. So let's jump right into this. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, I was a police officer in Tulsa, Oklahoma for 22 years. I'm currently a professional shooter, but about 5 years ago, I found myself, my husband, myself, and the Mitchellicks. If you know anything about the shooting sports, he's kind of our Michael Jordan, Jerry Mitchellick and his daughter Lena. And we were on the East Coast doing some matches on bookend weekends. So we had the week, we were doing the tourist stuff. And I have a friend in Washington, D.C., and she said, "Do you want to meet your legislator?" And I was like, I guess that's what you do when you go to Washington, D.C. So it was really during that conversation with Congressman Russell out of Oklahoma City. I was like, hey, is there something that we should be doing as professional shooters to educate the people in this building that are making some really horrendous decisions based on misinformation and ignorance? And from then, he kind of was like, yeah, I think you got something there. And on it, so it was just kind of a light bulb moment. I think it's a God thing that he put that on my heart. And then from then on, I've been on fire about it. It took me, at first I thought it was going to be professional shooters because we were really easy to vet and trust us with firearms, but it's another God thing, so much bigger. We started focusing on women because women can be a stronger voice when it comes to the Second Amendment. I look like me, you look like you. So we started doing that, and then I thought I can only talk to the Oklahoma people. So I started gathering one woman from every state and driving a trip to Washington, D.C. once a year. So we did that until 2020, and between COVID and Virginia falling in 2019, the end of 2019 election, or was it 18 or 19? Seems like it was just last year.
It was.
Yeah, and because I started in 2020, and I thought the battle is so much at the state level, and Moms Demand Action in Everytown. They have a huge budget. They have like a $36 and $60 million budget. They are motivated, they are organized, and they are funded. So I see them all the time now that I'm in this advocacy space, and I just realized there's really nobody from the firearms industry that's countering them. So we're trying to position ourselves as to be a counter visual. They're red. They have red shirts that have Moms Demand Action. And we have a teal shirt that says educate on top of legislate. So legislate looks like big block letters, and it's like we took chalk and wrote over the top of it. And there's some ARs around there. So it's a visual, it's a really good visual. And this year we actually launched a Teal for 2A campaign. And I'm reaching out to NRA Women, I'm reaching out to GOA, I'm reaching out to all the organizations that have, a girl and a gun, the Well-Armed Woman, Shoot Like a Girl, all these people. I'm trying to make sure that they understand that if there is a rally to go to, if there is a hearing to go to wear something teal. It doesn't have to be our educate, not legislate shirts, but if they're interested in that, they are on our website, dcproject.info/shop. So that's kind of how it started. Since then, I don't know if you knew, but I actually testified last September, October timeframe in the House Judiciary Committee when they were running up an assault weapons ban bill. And that was interesting. But I felt the pressure.
Was that floor action or committee action or what?
It was a bill that they were they call it something I can't remember, like they were proofing it or something. They had 5 antis on the panel, and they had 2, me and another gal from the Heritage Foundation that were pro 2A.
Okay.
So, and then we're in there for about 4 hours, and I felt the pressure of, representing our entire community on a world stage. That Amy did great, and I think that we both made an impact on their pushing that bill forward. It did die.
Good. Thank you, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome. It's an honor.
So the DC project is basically, so if I'm going to explain to somebody what it is and explain it quickly and well, this is a direct counter for Moms Demand Action. Is that what we're saying?
I think so. We when we say our name, because the DC project, I'll take credit for it. It's a stupid name. Sometimes it works in our favor because it doesn't shut the door right away, but it doesn't really have anything to do with who we are. So we do have like a little tagline at the end: "Women for Gun Rights." And yeah, it's I think we're positioning ourselves to be a direct counter to Moms Demand Action and the anti-gun and the women's thing of anti-gun movement.
Okay. All right. So what is it? Let me ask you this. What is it that the DC project, or what do you need from us? I mean, when I say that from us, I mean that not only from the Iowa Firearms Coalition or Iowa standpoint, but in a much larger sense, what is it you need from us in order to be successful, and how can we help?
Okay, well, let me back up to, you asked what we did. Traditionally, we went to Washington, D.C. once a year and met our legislators in small groups. And now I've asked those women to go to their states and do a state level. So I have state directors. They have their feet wet in Washington, D.C. Now I want them to go back and meet with their legislators back home. But also I want them to be influencers. I want them to talk to their friends, their families, and their communities about the Second Amendment. So that's kind of what we do. Now, what can Iowa Firearms Coalition do for us? Just tell everybody about us. Your state director is Janelle Westrom.
Yep.
From Davenport Guns, and we're just trying right now. This is the first year that we've gone down to the state level and really opened our doors to everybody, and we want everybody to come on and build an army of women, so that when Iowa Firearms Coalition knows about a rally that's coming up, Janelle can call, send the sirens out to her girls and say, hey, let's all meet, or who can meet on a certain day at a certain place. And we just want the state organizations, we want to partner with them because they already know everything that they need to know. I just want them to have a body of women that they can deploy at any moment, and if we have more that we can have, the better, because if we have 10, only half of them or less are going to be able to go on a certain day. If we have 100, if we have 1,000, then we can really show some numbers. So we're just in the growing phase. And then also, if anybody wants to support us, everybody's always looking for the financial and technological support.
Well, it makes a difference. That's something I'll tell you that I believe that our organization doesn't do well at all. I don't believe that we're very good about asking for membership. We have a hesitancy because of the makeup and character of the group to put our hand out. But the reality is, and it's just something that I have to get past as the chairman of the board, and that our board and our executive committee has to get past, is that it's not inappropriate to ask for the help. If Bloomberg rolls up with $60 million that he's going to spread over a handful of states to change the face of the nation and to alter elections, I can't go into battle with a pen and a smile and expect for it to work. So the fact of the matter is organizations do need funding, and they need engagement. And I believe that we have to get better about making those asks, and we shouldn't be ashamed of them, especially when the people that we're talking about, I know that you work hard. You mentioned Janelle earlier. She's a fun person. She's not prone to fluff or dancing around things. So she's a very frank but a nice person to talk to, and which is good because we're all very busy. She's not prone to wasting time. She gets right down to it. So it's appropriate to ask for funding, for help, and certainly the engagement, or else this doesn't work. I mean, it just doesn't work, Diana. It's no more complex than that.
I'm the same way. I don't like asking for help. And, I'm a sponsored shooter. That's how we live. So it's really difficult for me to ask for or go solicit people for ourselves. But anymore, I'm like, I can go up, I can ask much easier. I can ask for the DC project or even the Ambassador Academy, because I believe in what we're doing there. So you're right. We shouldn't be apologetic at all about trying to get people to engage, and financially, or, you know, their time, their talent, or their treasure. You got to get engaged.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're pushing for hard again this year, this legislative session starts for us essentially in the second week of January. There's some frills and, you know, what do they call that? Pomp and circumstance, that kind of stuff that goes on. But then the nitty gritty begins basically into week 3 in January. And an Iowa's legislative session doesn't last that long. They try and be finished by April or May at the latest. And so there's a lot of moving pieces and whatever else. And one of the things, or two of the things that we want to push through and offer people for true consideration so they can grasp this and grasp it well would be, one of them's a parking lot bill component. So basically today, let's say that you worked in Iowa, Dianna, and you had an employer that said, you can park your car in our parking lot, but if there's a weapon in it, we're going to fire you. So it doesn't matter to them that it's stowed safely, locked away, and falls into certain criteria. They basically say, well, we're liable because there's a gun in your car. And so when I ask them about this, I would say something like, well, what if there's a pound of coke in there and somebody is actually not a gun? Let's say it's a key of coke or something like that, and they are going to distribute. Are you on the hook, or do you go to jail too? Well, no, of course not. So
Well,
the truth,
there's something called the Fourth Amendment too.
right. So let's not let pesky things like that get in the way. But my point is businesses need businesses. I'm a business owner. I understand this as well. We want to have control of our entities, that kind of thing. But the vehicle and its contents aren't my business when they're on my property in terms of what the employee does. And I think that that's a clear separation that we should be making. So because as it pans out right now, it's basically a de facto ban on carry. Because when you or I leave the house, Dianna, and we intend to carry that day, and we go to work just like everybody does, what am I supposed to do if I can't stow it in my vehicle and I'm obviously not wearing it in my place of business or work? I'm supposed to find some sort of FedEx drop-off center to ship it back. I mean, and then what? So it truly ends up being an all-day ban on your carry, and that's wrong, and I know it's wrong. The same thing happens when people drop off their children at school. You go through the half-circle drive and you drop your kid off, and I don't remember how many permit holders Iowa has now. I want to say it's in excess of 400,000. I remember it being at least we're number 3, possibly number 2 in the nation in ratio of available permit holders to people who are permitted. I mean, and that's swung greatly from where we were 10 years ago when it was a state where you were issued individually yes or no by a sheriff. So there are a lot of people carrying, and every one of these is a potential felon because they're dropping their kid off at school while they're carrying, you know. And I know that that's wrong. You know that that's wrong. So what do you think about things like that?
Well, you mentioned felon. That's one of the things that I told the House Judiciary Committee. I was like, you know, you already made me make a choice between being a felon or giving up my bump stock. And I was telling them that don't make me a felon and by doing this assault weapons ban, because I will not comply. That is unconstitutional under the Heller decision. And you're going to push it. That's what's so amazing about it is all this, you know, this decriminalization of the actual, you know, or not holding the criminals that are committing crimes that are already on the books. They're not holding them accountable. They're letting them out.
Right.
Or they're suggesting that they get the COVID shots first. Or they're just elevating criminals, and then they're making the law-abiding criminals and putting us in jail for opening our restaurants or things like that. So it just seems like we're in the twilight zone. But when you talk about a new bill like that, that's exactly where I want the DC project to come into play is, you know, and it could be a collaboration between like Iowa Firearms Coalition and the DC project that you guys send us out, you know, hey, DC project, we got this bill. I think that, you know, if you guys can show up and talk to the media, the legislators, that it comes from us, from a woman's perspective, from a mom's perspective, and it doesn't look like a scary middle-aged white guy with big beard. Not that, I don't know who that fits, but, you know, Bold.
I don't have my Santa cap, but when I put that one on, I start really looking. I look a little bit more jovial and a little bit more. Yeah.
Spirit, you got it nailed. No, but it does. We are a gentler, kindler voice when it comes to influencing people about our Second Amendment rights and about these bills that we think are going to make America safer. And we know that we have the truth, but we just really have to talk to our friends, our family, and our communities about education, not legislation. Is a firearm safety equation.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you. I think that that's a good idea. I think that that's a really good way to. I think it's a good way to think because for whatever reason, and we have touched on a few of them. When I go to a legislator and they say to me, let's say, for example, one said to me, Michael, why do you feel like you need to have a firearm when you drop your child off at school? And I am very simply say, well, it's preparedness, number one, and it's responsibility, number two. But, oh, by the way, first and foremost is the love of children. And I try to explain to them, it's not just mine, it's yours too.
Yeah.
Where there truly is a gun-free zone, all you've really said is the good guys opt in. And the
Right.
bad guys don't adhere to that. Nobody with two brain cells to rub together could make an argument against that. Yet they somehow denounce what I have to say, and they find no value in it or too little. I believe you're right. It's different when a mom shows up and says, "Listen, my life matters. My children's lives matter. And oh, by the way, this is something I'm doing safely and responsibly. Who are you to disarm me because your frail sensibility is altered or your insecurities bother you? That's got nothing to do with me. Don't put that on me."
Right.
And it's different when women say that than when men say it. And I wish that weren't the case. But the fact of the matter is, I think that you're right. Women have a great deal that they're going to be able to offer that they haven't in the past, and they're hugely important.
Yep, I concur.
Okay, so you touched on one thing that I want to circle back around to, and then we'll get this wrapped up. You said something about the Ambassador Academy. Can you run us through that real quick?
Sure. I've been shooting professionally for 10 years now. And then I've had an opportunity to be on Michael Bain's show, The Shooting Gallery, and other places that I had to be in front of a camera and I needed to have some skills. There's also social media that is so confusing, and filming and editing. As a sponsored shooter and a professional shooter, I wear many hats, things that I don't know how to do. I know how to shoot. And so for years I've been like, Michael Bain, tell me how to do better, or tell me to go take some class and help me. He's like, oh no, you're doing great. And I was like, no, I see the show and I'm sucking. So I'd like to do better because I have somewhat of an ego. And he just said, you're doing great. So it's out of that. Something that I needed and wanted is an academy, a training school for all these different topics. So this is our third year. Our next class is coming up February 13th through the 17th. It's held at a private range outside of Orlando, Florida. I call it Tactical Disneyland because it's amazing, 5-star resort. But I hire all these hire all these subject matter experts in social media. I have a film and edit guy that's amazing. I have 3 professional photographers doing casual shots, head shots, product shots, action shots, all these things. We wrap it up and what's unique to the name of it is called WOFT, the range, WOFT.com. They just had a new website. He's opening his doors. But his specialty is force on force and scenario based training. So we get a full day of that because I really believe that as firearms ambassadors, we're probably going to carry, and that's what's coming towards us as we are going to, you've seen it in the past 8-12 months of what's coming for us as being persecuted as conservatives, Trump supporters, Christians, whatever it may be, firearms owners, that we're the bad guy. And like the couple in St. Louis or the kid in Wisconsin, you do something in those liberal cities, the liberal DAs, and I don't trust that we're not. So it's really important for us to have that kind of training. And we wrap that all up into a nice big present and put a bow on it. And we have 16 people in the class. I've got about a handful of seats left. If anybody's interested, they can go to Pro3Gunner, PRO, the number 3 gunner.com, and look up Ambassador Academy. That's our personal website, and they can get information and watch a little video about what we do and what WAF looks like.
Well, it's good that we touched on that, because I was under the false impression that this was basically, I wouldn't say lipstick on the pig, but I would say it was just trying to professionalize something that was already existing. And what you're telling me is there are so many components of this. I don't know if Ambassador Academy adequately describes it. I mean, my impression was something different, and you're saying no, we want all of these components elevated from amateur level to professional. We're going to show you how to do it. I think that's fantastic. That's hugely important. Many people don't take into those things into consideration. Maybe 1 or 2 components, but not many like that. So I'm sure that this has a great deal of value.
Well, and our capstone, I forgot to mention, our capstone is the personality, the interviews, whether they be friendly interviews like we're doing right now, or hostile interviews of why you need an AR-15. That's really the capstone of what we work on during. It's a 5-day academy, and that's really the capstone of what we work on, is trying to give you the reps for you to feel comfortable on camera, talking about Second Amendment rebuttals of why we think what we think, things like that. So I think that's the most important factor of the entire academy, is that we're preparing people to talk about the Second Amendment and gun ownership.
I think that's huge. I've done a number of these videos, and I've had a lot of help with this over my time, basically in sales or sales-ish capacities, and then operating my own business. So I get a little better with this, I get a little better at this with each passing day and experience. But I will tell you that it's usually born of friendly experiences or friendly exchanges. It will be quite different to be saddled to somebody who was really coming after you while you're in the hot seat. So
Right.
That's tougher, and that requires time, perseverance, and some core ideas that you walk into those interviews or exchanges that you have to keep in mind. Or boy, you can end up just being gutted, and that's horrible. Nobody wants that.
Right. And it doesn't help the cause, and that's what everybody wants to do, is want to help the cause. So this isn't just for professional shooters. This is for anybody, shooting experience. We do shoot some live fire stuff, because right now I'm focused on targeting 3-gunners, because that's my community. But I would love to see this spread into the sporting clays, the PRS, the long range. We can customize it however we want. We just pluck that one little piece out and put in a different. But if people have come to this academy that have no, they're not shooters, they're not professional shooters. They might want to get some handgun experience, but they don't want to touch the other 2 guns, and that's completely fine, because it's a class of 16. We can pretty much customize everything, and we just cycle them back through the Second Amendment conversations and things like that. So it's really easy to move the pieces where we need them to make everybody happy.
Fantastic. I like it. Let's do this. Let me email me over, if I don't have the stuff already, all these links, and we'll include them in our description so people can chase those and go see all about DC Project, the Ambassador Academy, and then what was it? Yeah. And was there a third one? Was there a third thing that we needed to look at?
No, Pro3Gunner is my website where the Ambassador Academy lives right now. Okay,
all right. That must have been where I was thinking.
Yeah.
All right. So is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to go over? Any parting thoughts, comments, questions, concerns that you've got?
Well, one of the things that your audience can consider is, if they have social media, that you need to be engaging and liking and commenting and sharing. Like for me, example, I'm Di3Gun on Instagram. I'm Dianna Muller 3Gun on Facebook. And if you like as much squelching as we get from the IT community and big tech, it's really important for you guys, if you see something, anything firearms related, that you like it, you share it, you comment it, and engage with it. So our pages perform well, and we can continue to influence people on a broader scale.
Yeah, it's really getting concerning how the algorithms get tightened and tweaked to well, not in our favor, against us all the time.
All the time.
And even when they ask us to spend money to boost posts and that kind of stuff, the next thing you know, like, oh, this, we look at it and this doesn't conform to our community standards. I'm like, dude, you took my money, but you didn't actually boost the post. So I mean, they play all kinds of games. It's getting bad out there. It really is.
It is.
And then when I read about, I don't remember the site off the top of my head, but basically WordPress, which was the, you know, the back end for what many sites are built on, comes up and says, well, your differences and our differences our thoughts are so far apart, we're going to go ahead and give you, you know, 11 days before we deplatform you. And it wasn't a violation of any kind of code of conduct or user agreement. It's basically, they just basically said, we don't like anything about you, so we're going to kick you off.
It's discrimination.
Yes.
And until we take it to the courts and we sue them and we penalize them for discriminating against us for being gun owners, it's not going to stop. They're just going to keep steamrolling over us. So
Agreed. So you're right about that. We need to like, share, comment, and offer that engagement as a force multiplier, because I assure you it's not going to happen any other way.
Right.
Okay. All right, Dianna Muller, thanks again for taking the time. I went through my notes here real quick. I think that we touched all the things that I was hoping for. I really appreciate your time again, and it's nice to get together and do these things. If there's anything that we can do to help you beyond this, let us know. Come back around for another interview, and I've got some things I want to talk with you about again and again and again. So thank you again.
Thanks for having.
Oh, so I'm sorry to interrupt. We had a little trouble making this work, but I tell you, it was worth it. So thank you for the effort.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas.
See you guys.